you.
Hey guys, my name is Star and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. Today I'm building a college student community where I wanted to create a space for college students to go to live at outside of the whole dorm room, frat parties, college thing. I wanted it to still be kind of small, like a studio apartment for the students, but I didn't want it to be on the expensive side. I know where I live, studio apartments are pretty expensive. They're more like around $800 for a studio apartment a month, which I know for some places that's like crazy to think that a studio apartment is $800 a month, but I wanted to create an area or a space, a lot for the students to have rent with, no more than about $400 a month, something super cheap that actual college students could afford. So I really struggled here with trying to find a fence that would match with a gate. As most of us already know, Sims 4, the devs did not always make a fence or a gate that would go with the fence. So I really struggled here, and I think what I ended up doing was I ended up going with a different fence altogether. That way the gate would actually match. I was hoping for something pretty symmetrical, something that would be a little less hectic. Is that the word I'm looking for? Not really hectic. I'm really looking for like something that was easy for a build, something not too crazy, but something that even like if you do go and you download this, that you'll be able to actually go and edit later. So say like if you wanted to go to the gallery and download this, then you would be able to make it something your own. Like say you just wanted it to be, I don't know, a house for like a communal like area, not college students, you could put different things in it, or even for little separate houses like tiny cottages, something like that. But here I was trying to find like outside style. I really went with like a more rustic type style, simple brown siding and stone fronts, which that's something big with me. I really don't like all siding houses. That's something that I'm finding a lot around here of like houses with that are just siding, and I'm like, why? You have no character, you're so bland. So I really try to do either a front or like some pieces on the front to be stone or brick. I favor stone mostly, but like some siding type deals for the sides and the roof. Here I was doing the windows. I really wanted big windows in this build because of the fact that the houses are so small. They're so tiny. So I wanted big windows so that it would feel bigger. You'll see later on in the build I also added in like a huge mirror in each of them so that, mirrors make things look bigger. I wanted things to be very light and very open on the inside since there's such a small space. These windows I did end up moving and changing a lot, specifically for the fact that the windows that I had in the back, those big long windows, they actually ended up being in the way because I needed to put in a bathroom and they just weren't going to fit. So I ended up changing those, not only moving them, but I ended up taking them out completely and adding in different windows. After that, after I did the windows, I started to do the inside, um, starting with specifically the bathroom. The bathroom itself is pretty tiny. Really, really tiny, actually. It ended up being pretty small. I don't know if you guys have ever had to deal with like a tiny bathroom before. Um, Having a tiny bathroom, my current place has a tiny bathroom. We literally only have a shower, a sink, and a toilet. We have a space. Our landlord put in a space for a washer and dryer unit, but like the washer has to be one of those tiny eco-friendly, not eco-friendly. What's the thing I'm looking for? Tiny small space washer. Currently, we don't have a dryer, but we are looking to get one of those tiny dryers, one of the ones that you can put up on like a rack or on the wall if you can find a support beam to the house to nail it into, not nail it into, but support it. It's pretty tiny. But these bathrooms I did end up making pretty bland. I wanted everything to be pretty symmetrical, so you'll see a lot here where I'll use the same type of flooring or the same layout. The whole layout of them is pretty symmetrical. However, I did make the bathrooms a bit asymmetrical. You'll notice that the toilets and the showers are in different areas, and that's only because of the fact that the showers, you know how the Sims 4 showers have that one wall where it's not clear, it's the tile siding, and I didn't want that to be on the outside wall. I wanted it to be on an actual wall that I wouldn't have to see it, or it just doesn't seem right to me to have that tile wall on the outside. It just seems weird. So the bathroom itself, like the toilets and the sinks, kind of move around a bit depending on where that wall is, in conjunction with the actual wall of the house. Now for the beds here, for like the sleeping area, quote, the sleeping area, I did want the beds to be different. Not only in color, but also in style, specifically because I feel like they would bring their own beds. Like, this is just a space. It's kind of like an away from, like a small apartment. So they won't bring, obviously, the bathroom stuff or like the fixtures or like the cabinetry and stuff like that, the stove and things, but they would bring their own beds, their own chairs, things like that. But I did think, well, not even think, it's specifically because of the fact that when I was building this, we didn't have the small living or the tiny living pack. So I had to stick with this singular spaced tiny, the tiny desk. I would have preferred there to be a little bit of wiggle room as far as the desk, but I figured that, you know, we don't have another desk that is a single space, and I wasn't about to give them the singular dining table. It just didn't feel right to me. In addition, I really struggled here to find a dresser that was only a single space, only for the fact that I don't normally do single space dressers. I normally do the squat wide dressers for my builds. I never actually had to branch out and go up. And in small living spaces, you really need to go up rather than out. And living in an apartment with another person for, 3 years now with my bestie, it's really taught me that you need to be conservative about your space. Which I never had to do that before because I used to live, when I was growing up, I lived in houses. I lived in homes. We never lived in an apartment for anything longer than a couple months. When my parents split, I ended up living with my dad, and we moved into this tiny, less than 800 square foot, one bedroom apartment. And it was really, really jarring to go from having my own bedroom, which after my parents split, I ended up taking the master bedroom, to this tiny, small second floor apartment. But at least I was able to keep my stuff then. I just kind of put everything in storage. I think you guys have can probably see now that I'm trying to stick with like a color theme. I went with two neutral, I should say gender neutral colors, and like a pink and a blue, one for a girl, one for a guy. But honestly, I would love to see a guy in this pink space with like a pink bed and like pink chairs and pink rugs and stuff. It would be pretty interesting to see that in like a girl in that blue space. It would make my day. Oh yes, I did the wood flooring and the tile flooring. I was hoping for something to be like an easier cleanup space. I wanted it to be easy cleanup in case something spilled or anything, not something that they would have to worry like, oh my goodness, I spilled something on the carpet, now I'm going to lose my security deposit. Just because I didn't want them to have to worry. I know as a college student myself and renting, I was constantly worrying about, oh my goodness, I can't spill anything on the carpet. I think one time I ended up spilling juice, and I literally sprayed that down until it was, I think the carpet ended up being whiter in that one spot than the rest of the carpet, simply because I didn't want to lose my security deposit, which at the time was $800. No, it was 850. It was 850, I think, for that security deposit. And I really didn't want to lose it over a single small spot on a stained carpet, which, you know, being a college student, that's the last thing you want to have to worry about. So I was kind of feeling for them. And I was like, oh, you know, they can all bring their own kind of rugs or carpets, or not carpets, rugs, where they can have some type of comfort in that area right there. I did run around here trying to put in lights in the bathrooms, but at the end of the build, I actually completely forgot and ended up putting in lights in the living room area because I checked the night, like I set it to night mode to check the lights to see how it would look, and it was way too dark in their bedroom living room area. So I ended up putting lights there. As you can see, I have like the smallest kitchens ever for all of these young adults, because they wouldn't be teens at that time, I guess, or maybe they would, I don't know. But tiniest kitchen ever, with one tiny small kitchen counter, a single stove, and the fridge, which is pretty generous because in most dorms you only have those tiny little squat fridges that really don't keep things cold at all, and you're like, what is this here for? It's only here for drinks. I feel like they don't want me to eat. They just want me to drink soda for the rest of my life in this tiny little fridge. But I gave them an actual sized fridge, which was nice. And I'm actually really proud of myself in this build because of the fact that I didn't forget the curtains. You'll notice in a lot of my builds that I forget the curtains. And yeah, it just makes things difficult. And that's that right there, what I just did. I noticed that I put in the get to work one-sided windows for the jailhouse, and I was like, oh, well, those won't work because it's just mirrors on the inside and you can see into the house. So that's right there is when I switched out the windows. I did have trouble trying to find a place for the TV, for that tiny little TV, but I'm glad that, I had that tiny wall TV. It's super small, super tiny, but at least it's something for entertainment besides the computer, which unrealistically, they have the most expensive computer that is in the Sims world. So I think it was like, 10,000 simoleons per computer? Which, I mean, thinking back, students would not be able to afford that expensive laptop. I know that when I started going to college, I didn't even have a laptop at all. My uncle ended up giving me one of his old laptops, which it was really weird because you could take the laptop screen, you could lift it, spin it around, and close it so that it was like a tablet type thing, and you had like this little what is it called, a stylus that you could use to actually physically write on a document if you wanted to take handwritten notes instead of typing up your notes. Personally, that's what I did do for a good while, but I ended up typing up my notes because it was so much faster to type them up than to handwrite them and then convert them. I had a little bit of trouble here trying to find a place for the hamper, but I think I succeeded. I think I did pretty good. I wanted it to be in line with the chairs, but, that didn't happen. Come to think of it, I don't even know if I put a hamper in every room. Did I put a hamper in every room? I don't think I did. I think I got sidetracked and ended up focused on that mirror. Yeah, I was so focused on the mirror that I'm pretty sure I forgot to put a hamper in for every single one. In addition, I fixed and rearranged the beds, and they're now asymmetrical. Like, the headboard of the beds are backwards. Like, some of the head of the beds are up towards the bathroom, and some are towards the mirror. What was it? Yeah. So I'm like finishing each individual house real quick with their kitchens and their living room areas and their tiny TVs. It wasn't much to complete all that, but after that, I ended up going outside to do the landscaping, which was pretty fun. It was interesting to try and find something that worked for that community feel. Sorry, my doggo is looking for attention. Can't say my doggo. My bestie's doggo is looking for attention. Anyway, so I'm just trying to complete and finish like all of the curtains and things, just to, not fall into the same pitfall that I always do and not put curtains in every single build that I make. I wish that I didn't do that. I really wish that I didn't do that. But, like, curtains are, like, an afterthought to me. Like, I never think about my curtains. I'm just glad that, this build turned out great. Like, I had a lot of fun. I had so much fun making this build. Just thinking, like, okay, well, what does a student need? Okay, well, they need a tiny kitchen, but they won't need much space. I actually completely forgot to put in a dishwasher or a sink or anything for these guys, but I figured, looking back, there really was no space for a sink. So they can actually use the sink in the bathroom to wash their dishes. I mean, what is a student really going to have? One bowl, one plate, and then one fork, knife, and spoon, and then a pan or whatever in a pot. Just enough so that they can make their own food. Not even much like things to eat. Mainly like canned foods and stuff like that. Some takeout mostly. I ended up going back. I think it was right here. Almost about here. I ended up going back and I wanted there to be a very clear divide. Oh no, it's not here. I'm actually about to check for, I'm checking for all of the areas after I finish this next kitchen. I had to check all of the areas to make sure that I did everything, like made all of the kitchens and all the beds and spaces and stuff like that. And I actually noticed, as an afterthought, I noticed that I didn't add in any wallpaper, no paint or anything on the walls. So I was like, oh, great. I completely forgot to do that. Even after I did the fire alarm thing. Yeah, I go back and I'm like, oh, I completely forgot to put on the paint. So like I'm trying to find a space for the thermostat and the fire alarm, and a place for the little fire, the sprinkler system on the outside, trying to figure out whether or not it's better to have it on the back of the house or the side of the house. I ended up going with the back of the house because I figured, well, unfortunately, the one side of the house is on the street side, but I figured it wouldn't be too crazy or like too distracting for the community. I don't think they'd care. But yeah, this is where I ended up going, oh, I didn't add any paint. So like real quick, like ran around and like added paint and tiles and stuff, tiled walls to the bathrooms just to make it complete. And then I went back and I made that clear divide between the quote unquote living room area and the kitchen. I think I ended up putting like the black and white tile wall to each of the kitchens. And then I ended up doing a tile flooring to each of the kitchens as well, just to make sure that it was a clear divide. But that, that took a little bit. Don't know why it took so long. I think I wanted everything to match. I didn't want it to be too crazy, but with the flooring and stuff and the wallpaper, sometimes it is really difficult to find something that matches, especially if it's like a color scheme thing, which with this build I really did a color scheme, like yellow and orange and just a whole yellow and one blue and one pink, which it ended up working out in the end, and I'm really, really happy with the way that it all turned out. There it is. I had trouble finding that one too. There's sometimes where I have real trouble trying to find things. I actually have to cut out some of that, trying to find different things in the build by mode, where I have to edit my videos down so that you guys don't have to watch me scrolling through endlessly these sections of The Sims, of the build by mode. You don't have to watch me do that. But here's where I was actually doing the landscaping. I really wanted like a courtyard type feel, so I ended up putting in this tree in the courtyard area for them. I put in this tree and I put like a walkway area around it. And then I added back in like the dirt. I had to downsize it because to me, it didn't feel like it was big enough. In addition, I didn't like the stone that I put down. So I changed the stone type, And then I made these tiny little walkways to each of their doors, which ended up looking pretty funny. I don't know if you guys have ever played Patapon, but it's like this little tribal beat music game, which that like looks like one of the symbols, and it was pretty funny. Which I promptly destroyed because then I made this walkway out the gate and to that area. I was gonna make a walkway all the way down to the sidewalk, but I just didn't. I felt like it would take away from the fact that it was like I really wanted that fence to be the front of the house, but like the Sims don't have the longer plots sideways for some odd reason. I added a bit of lavender to the front of the front doors just for aesthetics. That bush, you know, purple and yellow. And then I was gonna add a bench or two. Specifically just so that they had like a space, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should have added what is it called? Maybe I should have added a fire pit. I was like, because, you know, maybe they all want to get together and sit outside around a fire pit instead of, you know, a tree. And I was like, well, that will take away from the fact that I really wanted this to be a space for college students who just want nothing to do with other people. Not that they don't want anything to do with other people, but they didn't want parties. They didn't want to, like, they wanted a space away from college to focus on just studying. Whereas being on the college campus, it would really, what's the word I'm looking for? It would really, take away from that experience in and of itself. So I didn't add them. I didn't add the benches, and I didn't add the fire pit. I just stuck with the tree. Here you can see I'm really messing with these roofs because I wanted some type of like protection from the rain. I know that when I was living in an 800 square foot tiny little cottage home for rent, we always kept the windows and the door open because we didn't have an air conditioner. So we kept the windows and the door open, and when it would rain, it was like a blessing because of the fact that it was always hot in the summer. It was really, really hot and humid, and to get like the wind from the rain and like that nice cool draft was really refreshing. So I wanted to put a door here, not only for that, but also because I know when you're standing on a front porch and it's raining, you really don't want there to be rain coming down on your head while you're trying to juggle your backpack, your books, your water bottles, all of that, and still trying to find your keys to get into your house. So I really put a lot of thought into what would help a college student, or things that I wish that I had when I was going to college. I did put some lights on the outside just to light up the courtyard, and that's when I was like, oh, there's no lights inside. Maybe I should fix this. So I real quick threw some lights in there in order to brighten up the place a little, which helped out a lot. And that really, it fixed everything. It really made the whole place come together. But that's it, guys. That was everything. Thanks for watching. And if you guys enjoyed this, if you guys liked my builds, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you guys want to see me build, whether it be a different style or an idea or giving me a challenge, something, anything. Just give me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys liked about this or what you didn't like about this. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. you.